Scrolling. And it says we're live. Hello, everyone. Tracey Noriega here, paying it forward on Power to the Peeps. I have the lovely Lindsay Wood with me from Experience Tiny Homes. And yes, I'm very excited about this. She is located in California, so a lot of her information, is that true? Lindsay, most of your information is going to be California based?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we've got some stuff for the rest of the country.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who don't know, and I know there's many of you who get very romanticized about the tiny home experience. And, this is the perfect person to talk to because Lindsay herself, with her husband, set out on one of those journeys. And I think I'm going to let her take it from here because she, in that whole experience, is how she came to be where she is now. Lindsay?
All right. Thank you, Tracey. Thank you for paying it forward. It's an awesome title because it's something that I feel is the basis of our business, Experience Tiny Homes. But to tell that story, let me share my screen. We're going to test this, everyone. So you're going to be
Oh,
with us
yeah.
on this
Let's see.
journey. Okay, so we're going to hit share. How about in your side, Tracey? Does it
No.
show? No. All right,
Is it
we're going
on?
to hop off of that and not. Yeah, you can go and find this information out on the, let's see, it's still kept that in there. Okay, I'm just not sharing my screen anymore. No.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone.
No worries. We're all trying to figure new tech out. So
This is the announcement for the show. That was an alarm. Oh my goodness, you guys, seriously, the background. We have it all perfectly set up. I'm here at my solar job today, hence the solar panel behind me, which is actually what's been powering our tiny home. But the story starts in Marin County. My husband and I had lived there for 7 years. And when realizing after $1,500 a month, shelling out to someone else that, I was paying my rent to, basically their equity was building, mine was not. Even though I did have a beautiful place to call home, it just really kind of bit a little bit that, so much money, $108,000 had already been spent. And I didn't want the next $108,000 just to go to someone else other than myself. I wanted a piece of that. And so, long journey. We were real estate investors. So we thought we would dig ourselves, or at least buy our beautiful home in Marin County, which starts at $700,000 for a fixer-upper. We decided to not get that much in debt, and that going tiny was a way for us to not only travel, which we did. Not many people do that in tiny homes. I will give that as a disclaimer. They usually buy them and plant them, and then maybe they'll move in a year or two. But we decided to buy our tiny home. We traveled with it for 6 months around the country. And then we are now planted more here in the Ukiah, Mendocino, Sonoma County area. And then in the process of traveling, we went to like 12 different festivals and showcased our home to over 7,000 people. This is before COVID.
now this is going all across the country with your tiny home on the back.
California to Texas, back up to Colorado and back. Yeah, 6,000 miles in 6 months. Pretty much moving weekly. Kind of crazy. But we were showing our home just to show our home. Like, we had no plan. We literally had just finished saving our tiny home from our builder. So we contracted with a builder. When we chose to go tiny, we found a builder. We went to a festival in Arlington, Texas in 2017, found a builder in that weekend, hired them, paid them, pretty much about 2/3 of the money, about $65,000. And they went out of business in the middle. So we learned quickly, we basically had to rescue our tiny home from Utah, bring it back. And then we spent the next 8 months finishing our tiny home. We spent
as in constructing it, like finishing it.
We got it as a shell. And what that means is the walls were up, the roof was on. But when you walked inside, the walls were up inside, but nothing was done. No cabinets, no bathroom. The bathroom walls were down to the studs still. So and then we had to redo the electrical. We had to redo parts of the plumbing. We had to redo things. And then the real kicker, day 2 of our travel, we had to change out our axles and our tires. So in that whole experience of learning about tiny homes, obviously kind of a crash course or what we call like, you know, the equivalent of a master's degree. We then turned around and created Experience Tiny Homes. It created itself because we were showing our tiny home and we kind of figured out and fixed our tires and our axles. Then we hit the road. And about, I would say June in Colorado, this is 2019 now, just a year ago. And we went to all kinds of festivals. We did 12 festivals in a 6-month period. A lot.
12.
Well, we had
12.
not a clue that just, 6 months later, we were all going to be faced with shelter in place and the global pandemic. So we're grateful we did that. And on the way, we learned that people are probably like us. You know, they're interested in going tiny, they're dreaming about it, but they have no idea the myriad of problems that they could incur. The hope is that they find the right builder. Right now, 2 tiny home builders are under bankruptcy. Do they have that listed on their website? No.
Yeah.
So we really became experts. An area that was missing in the industry was someone that could help people guide them through the process.
Well, it sounds like even more navigating, because I mean, if I just think, when you think just even on building something, you have the permits and the setbacks and all of these other things. And then on top of it is that it's a mobile home. And I know that there's so many different rules that apply to that. Has that been what you've found?
What you're not doing is you're not building, basically a tiny home on wheels mostly falls under a park model code for an RV. It's called an RV park model. The real name is ANSI A119.5. There is no tiny home model code in the world. Because it's on wheels, it doesn't fall under local and state jurisdiction for building codes, right? Because it's movable. So in the movable world, the best code that we have now is the ANSI 119.5, which is the park model. But a lot of people, 1, have never built a custom home. 2, have never built an RV. And I would say most people never built an RV. Maybe someone's, you know, remodeled or whatever. And now not only are they facing the idea of building their like dream tiny home, and it may be their tiny home that like, this is them selling their home or them choosing to retire. I'm thinking about all my clients right now, or my DIY clients are like, I don't want to buy a home. I don't even have anywhere near the money it takes in California to buy a home, much less some places around the country too. So I'm going to get this dream home as my home. And now they have to design it, and every inch counts, right? Every square foot matters. So there is some guidance to that. We talk about the must-haves. So I basically put together, because Tracey and I are both coached by the awesome Jen Ken. And Jen taught us how to put together a framework so that people could really understand more of, you know, the process of what they're in. So they're, you know, the ones that haven't done anything, but they're just dreaming, they're in the dreaming state, which is awesome. They're looking at YouTube videos, they're checking out the local HD TV channel. And that's when they're seeing the gorgeous tiny homes, they're seeing them parking so easy, you know. And so I like to call it like the 3 myth busters of going tiny, right? Like parking is so easy. It only costs $5,000 to build your tiny home, and it's all going to take a week.
Anyone in California knows that parking is not easy, especially if you've, you know, even just with a truck. So may I ask this, like, what is the advantage, or why would someone choose a tiny home versus an RV? Because then some people may say, well, then an RV just seems to be easier. So then what are the advantages to having a tiny home that somebody would pick that over an RV?
Perfect question. That's probably the most common question you would get, because our industry, our world, the way we've grown up, I mean, tiny homes are a disruptor. They're a disruptor to the RV market. They're a disruptor to the home market. You know, well, I say the disruptor because they're just something different that's come in. They're also a huge solution. However, the RV that has been in our minds is made for temporary use. Right? That's why people park it in their side yard and they take it out once a year and they pack a bunch of people and beer or soft drinks or whatever into it, and they go out to their camping spot. And then they come back home and they land. But if you were to put that many people like you would in a home, year round, those systems, the paneling, the weight of the whole system, they would break down over time, and then some RVs are built for 4-season, but on average, they're built for lightweight, they're built for travel. But when you're like thinking about the tiny home owner, they want to build that beautiful home, and they want to move it, but they don't want to move it a lot. Some will move it 1, 2, or 3 times in the tiny home's lifespan. In our case, we were the unicorn. We drove it, crazy for the first 6 months, and now we're looking for, a landing spot for it again. We had quite a different change with us with shelter in place and all that, like many people have experienced. But the tiny home is really built like a home. So we always say, from the trailer up, it's a home. It's 2x4 studs, it's wall insulation, it's dual pane window. Many homes use standing seam roof, which you put a standing seam roof on a 2,500 square foot home, that's expensive. But on a 300 square foot tiny home, that's not that expensive, but it's a 50-year roof. RVs, I call them the blue tarp effect. Eventually you're going to have a tarp on that thing because it is going to be leaking.
Yeah.
Just the nature of the way RVs are built. They're cheap. If you need fast, affordable housing, then RVs are great. However, then you get into the whole issue. You're not supposed to live in them permanently. And in cases where in California, we are unique. This comes into the California stuff. And where we can be like a beacon for every other state out there, California has the accessory dwelling unit ordinance statewide. That means you can put a granny unit, in-law unit. I've heard laneway house. There's 65 different names for these tiny homes in backyards where space allows.
Yeah.
Okay. In City of Fresno, City of Los Angeles, City of San Diego, City of San Jose, Humboldt County, and Santa Clara County, you now can actually put a tiny home on wheels in the backyard legally as an accessory dwelling unit. It was hanging fruit. And then there's even some nuance in there. Well, why wouldn't you just build a foundation tiny home? You're looking at starting prices of $130K or more, because you got to put in some water, electrical, sewer. You got to get a permit, all that stuff. But a tiny home can probably start in the 100 or so thousand and go down. And if you wanted to DIY yourself, I have a client that's building one for around $30,000 because they're putting in labor. But you can probably buy one, it's a little smaller, not your big, our home was 100,000, 33 square feet. 33 feet long, 300 square feet. People always say, oh, that's a big tiny home. It's because my buddy Jay started with them small. Yeah. And as soon as all of us were like, well, I want a big tiny home, we're still only 11% of a 2,500 square foot average house in America. 11%. So even though we're big, then that initial tiny homes that came out, there were 100, they were like 5%, right? Of the size. So I'm happy with my 11% because I need some room for me and my honey to navigate our lives.
I was going to ask you, how long have you lived in your tiny home? And then also one thing that came to mind, because you were saying that with, the square footage and stuff, how reasonable is it to think that you can make it off-grid, like with the solar panels you have behind you, like really be as off-grid?
Oh, that's a great question. So here, let me give you guys an example. This thing I'm holding right here, I'm with Soul Solutions. They're awesome. And they actually installed our solar system. So perfect that we're doing this here. This can run like your laptop, what I'm talking to right now, a cell phone, some lights. It's not going to run a refrigerator. But then you get into, I'm going to have to kind of crouch down. You get into stuff like that on wheels, and even the Soul Man by Soul Solutions. This is the kind of system that can run an entire tiny home. The refrigerator, because that's going to be a 3,000 watt system. And that's something that you can then run the refrigerator, a full size fridge. It's lithium batteries. They're going to last for 20 years. But just a super important thing, because people don't really know how to price this stuff. $10,000. I should have asked you first. Darn it.
I wouldn't have guessed that for all of that. That's all of those units. Those are all of those units to run everything.
Price for that unit. Then this is the next cool part. So you got this panel. This is a rigid frame. A lot of people know that. But the cool thing is we've got flexible. So I literally, with one arm, because I'm holding my computer with the other, can pull this out, and that can then be angled on the ground by this thing flipping up to the sun. Because one thing we learned about our solar system is that we mounted our panels on the roof because we traveled.
Yeah.
Well, then what happens when you want to park under shade, or you're not in the right angle? Our roof is a shed roof, and we have panels on one side, and so we had that issue in winter when we wanted to run. We had a choice. We either ran our solar system or we had sun on our front door. What we could have done is had a bunch of those panels, there's like, stacks of them right over there, and taken them out when we were landed. But we didn't do that because, we were first. We had to learn all this stuff.
I feel for you guys. When I read through your website, it made me think of that movie back in the late 80s, The Money Pit with Tom Hanks. I wonder how many times you guys were just laughing hysterically because you're about to cry on the road in those conditions.
What I call that little episode of our lives. I literally at one point I sanded my arm. I was up on a ladder and I'm like standing the side of our tiny home because I chose wood, which I would never do. We're in California. It's burning everywhere. You do not want wood anywhere on the outside of your tiny home, because if you're going to go to all that trouble to build a brand new home, build it for the area in mind. So we learned yet again, but I sanded my arm. So I call it the blood, sweat, and tears, because we had our moments where like, yeah, we did it, but we didn't set out to do that. So a lot of people that they set out to have their home, if they come at it from 100% DIY, then they know what they're preparing for. It's a lot of work. Yeah. If they come at it from like, I'm going to have a custom builder build this, and then you inherit a problem, that's the last thing you're wanting to do. So the way I take people through my system is they're already someone that has at least $70,000 to put into their tiny home, because that's when you really get a home that's big enough. It's going to have the luxury items like a full-size fridge and maybe a bathtub or a quality good shower, all that kind of stuff. Loft, 2 loft, you name it. And then we design it with our designer. So we have a designer that knows how to design with the trailer, and he does his design custom homes, like normal homes as well as tiny homes. Has all the, CAD and Revit and everything that I don't want to ever know. And then we get that, like, we call it the line drawing or 3D rendering, whichever. We have 2 packages for people. The line drawing is the most basic one you need. And that package is $1,500. And then what we do is we take those line drawings and send them out to builders. Versus the other way is just you find a builder and you go with them and they design it all for you. And you're like a lot of eggs in one basket.
Right.
You being able to go around to all these different builders, they're not going to all design your home, but they're going to charge you for it. So they're going to charge you in the $1,500 range, whether you go with us or whether you go with a builder. But wouldn't it be nice to you be in charge so that you own your design? And
you're sort of like a general contractor in a way, and you're like facilitating that and more, because then you also have the knowledge with the parking, because that's going to be my next question, and that's beautiful. You led in that. So this.
Let me answer one thing really quick. Yeah. So one of the things that we'll do is you work with me. Once we get all those quotes back, and people, if they have some builders like, I love them, great, let's put them in the mix. But let me introduce to you some others that you may not know about. You may need a time frame. You need a certain budget. I have a client right now. I really want it built in Colorado. Well, a lot of Colorado builders right now are slammed. What if it's like one state to the south and it's in Arizona, but you didn't know them? So I want to bring some others in the mix. And the cool thing is, when I send this out to a builder, I already know that we're going to have all that put together as a kit. I don't want them to have a lot of work to do. I want them to look at what we have and generate a quote. And then we get this information back from 3 to 4 builders. And then we selectively figure out which one's the right one. At least get it down to the last 2. Right. And then get them on the phone. Then wouldn't that be a more like thorough process of getting to your tiny home builder?
Well, you're sort of like a fairy godmother of the tiny homes in a way, right? Because you're just like hand holding them
Yeah.
and bringing out these things. I mean, just you in your journey itself has been shown, oh, I picked wood, it's beautiful. And then it's like, yeah, well, it's not practical where you
Well, we
are.
had to do a lot of the mistakes. Like we literally have an on-demand hot water tank that's propane inside our tiny home. Any tiny home people that are watching this like, oh, no, she didn't. It's actually not allowed. So we're going to change that. These are all things that actually you don't learn from the things that work out.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have one shot at it. I have friends that paid $90,000 and they can't move their tiny home. Same thing. Absolutely wrong. And weirdly enough, something about their hitch. It's another $11,000 to fix their home so they can just move it.
Wow.
Not
so then
expected,
Yeah. So then this masterclass that you have going on, and I'm going to put that information on there for people to see, this masterclass that you're going to have on September 29th, who is it for? Like, is it for the novice? Is it for the curious person? Is it for the one who's already got the money and a piece of land? Like, who is this for?
Yes, 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 and yes.
Okay.
Because I take you through this framework, and I mentioned it earlier, I call it the 5 building blocks of buying or building a tiny home. Because remember, there's people that are DIY, there's DIY hybrid. I go over all the different iterations that you could be, because there's literally 7 different levels. From 100% DIY to 100% custom, there are 7 different styles. Then there's different stages you're at. But, if you're in the dreaming stage and you're just like, you've been watching YouTube videos, or if you're someone that just wants to save rent and you want to go tiny, but you may not know where to park it, or you're someone that wants to retire and you already have land, it's going to all work. I mean, I see all these because all these people that are my clients have these stories, right? They all fit different ages. I've got someone that wants to retire, owns her own land. She's on a farm. I've got someone that wants to DIY. So they're buying the shell from a builder. So they don't have to do all the framing, the technical, the plumbing, the electrical. You want to get that stuff right. You get that wrong, you either have a flood or you have a fire, or you're going to break down on the road. Like none of those are optional for me, for people that work with me. They're all going to be certified tiny homes, certified to the ANSI code, and they're going to be certified by Pacific West Tiny Homes. And I get into all this stuff in the masterclass. So I could realize I'm like going down that rabbit hole. So there is a rabbit hole to it. So if you find yourself going down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos and not knowing who to trust, this also is for you.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
If you're someone that's like, I really want to figure out how to park, I do include in the masterclass some ideas and hacks around how to park your tiny home. And I will be releasing a whole, like kind of a mini masterclass on just parking. Because
it is a masterclass in and of itself, especially in California with all the different regulations.
Topics from plan. This is the framework from plan. I mean, the 5 building blocks: plan, design, build, park, live. Okay. And then there's sub frameworks in each one of those. I do offer a 1-hour strategy. Anyone that wants any of my packages has to do a 1-hour strategy call first, because I want to know more about your project. And then when they sign on to whatever package that works for them, that will be deducted. That 1 hour will be deducted from the package.
That's beautiful. That's a very generous.
It just gives them a chance to like take micro steps. I have a woman that is like, she's already thinking that the home is being built tomorrow. I'm like, girl, you're just designing the home. You're okay, because some of these guys have been thinking about it. If this is you and you've been dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, but it hasn't made it to the planning stage,
right?
You're kind of overwhelmed, and then you see videos that can throw you off.
Well, whenever you watch those HDTV ones, they're never showing you at the permit, office where you're trying to put in the plans, and then they tell you that whole thing and send you back.
And I'll talk about under the radar, because I've only done one. I've only done under the radar. It's only recently, a year ago, we were traveling around the country, and I have a picture of this, the only 2 cities that had been approved by them was City of Fresno, City of San Luis Obispo. 1 year later, all those pieces that I just mentioned are all approved. So we'll talk about that as well, legalizing and landing. And if anyone wants to advocate for tiny homes in your own local area, I even have a program for that.
Well, that's great. And you have such a network. Having done that trip, I imagine you've got contacts in just about all
It is
those
the
states
network.
that you are.
It's a
Yeah.
small, but mighty community.
Yeah.
Builders are coming and going. They don't have to be contractors. They get excited. Oh, I could build a tiny home. I can make bank on that. Well, it's not as super simple. And building a home on foundation is very different than building a home that needs to withstand hurricane winds and earthquake conditions, even if you're driving it 5 minutes down the road.
Yes, very true.
I worked with a builder, for example, recently. He was new, totally beautiful design work and woodwork and all that, but he put the wrong on-demand hot water tank on because he didn't know it needed to be mobile certified.
Oh,
And if it's not
man.
mobile certified and it's gas, these little parts inside that are not tested for vibration can break. And now what do you have? A leaky gas thing that's brand new.
Yeah. Yeah. A nice, mobile explosion. So there you go, everyone. Anyone who has had that inkling and maybe a tiny home is for me, then please sign up for the masterclass. And if you can't sign up for the masterclass, are you going to be showing that or sending out a live just for people who may not be able to attend it?
Sign up for it. Click on the link. If you can't make it, I'll be reaching back out to you and letting you know. We're also doing tiny home town halls until the end of December, twice a month. First and third Tuesday of the month. I just really wanted another way for us to communicate. There's the people that I'm going to be attracting within my own community, general online. I'm going to give it till December to see what kind of momentum we've got. But it really is a communication around all that's going on with COVID. I mean, the solutions need to come fast and furious and fast as the pandemic has changed our whole reality on financial, our housing, as well as here in California with all the fires.
Yeah.
And Oregon, sorry, I need to add Oregon in there. Blessings to everyone that has lost so much. I'm sitting right now in Santa Rosa where it ripped through. A firestorm came through so quickly. It killed probably half of the people that have died in Oregon right now. So not to leave it on a sad note, but we need solutions for people,
Right. Well, and thank you for, taking all of your experience and paying it forward, in your own way. And it's just so, I think, beautiful. And that's why I want to have you on here is, again, all of us taking our real life experiences and crafting it in a way that we can serve others with it. And
I love it. Thank you for giving me your opportunity to talk on your platform to all of your beautiful people and for paying it forward. I think it's super important. And then everyone that gets to be a tiny home owner gets to pay it forward just by the sheer fact that you're living in one.
Yes.
Literally, it's very possible, you guys, for anyone that's out there that is looking around at doing it and no one in your family or in your friend network is doing it and you're the first, totally okay. There are many of us on the other side that are willing, including myself, that are willing to guide you through that process. And that is part of why I want to do the Tiny Home Town Hall is for, us to create. We also have the Tiny Home Support Squad I'll be rolling out. So, just thinking of, community, sustainability, generosity, advocacy, and diversity are my top values that our business holds.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm all for community and believe that that is part of what we're doing here is building community and getting people connected through this. So so anyone who's interested, once again, all that information's down there and it's in the description with all the links. Go to Create Your Dream Tiny Home .weebly.com to sign up for that masterclass on the 29th. And as Lindsay said, she'll send that to you if you can't make it live. And take a look at her website too to sign up for maybe you already know I am tiny home. I'm going tiny home and I'm just going for it. She's the one to call. And as she said, whatever that fee is for the consultation will go to, if you continue to work with her, will go towards whatever package she finds for you that fits what it is that you want to do. So thank you again, Lindsay. I know you've got a busy day out there. Thank you for taking the time to come here and inform everybody.
Solar power here in California with all the power shutdowns and fires.
Yeah. Thank you again. All right. Stay happy, healthy, positive.
You too.
Cheers.